no, because my sister had a really rough time with giving up meat. We would be like, baby, we want you to live.
Right.
Just give yourself a chance. And she was really addicted. So I want to talk about addiction, and to kind of comfort you a little bit, Juice, is that I actually think that we're addicted to meat. I think we're addicted to the chemicals, the taste, and all that kind of stuff, the preservatives, the additives, to meat. So much so that you have the information that it will kill you and you eat it anyway.
Here's the surprisingly Black history of veganism. If your only mental picture of veganism is white ladies and Lululemon knocking back shots of wheatgrass, then you're way off.
Hey, welcome back to the channel. Now the question and the topic about this video is vegan the new black? All right, let me repeat that again. Is vegan the new black? And the reason why I am starting with this video is because it's a big movement within the Black community, and you can see it escalating more and more each year. There's a lot of propaganda going on, and there's a lot of pseudosciences going on. Now, I'm gonna start this video by explaining how all of this started and how did it escalate. Okay, we want to know, how did this escalate, what really pushed this agenda within the Black community, and my issues I have about this. But before I get started, I think you're going to find a lot of value in this video. So if you could just do me a favor, go ahead and subscribe. Also, there's a thumbs up, hit that thumbs up button, leave a comment, okay, share your thoughts, your comments, and if you can share this with as many people as possible. If you want to share this on Facebook, share this on any other social media platform, that would be really helpful. So let's go ahead and get started. All right, don't mind the sticky notes on the back of the laptop. But according to the Washington Post, a 2016 Pew Research Center survey found 3% of American adults overall identified as vegan, and only 1% of Hispanic Americans. That number jumps to a startling 8% among African American adults. In Gallup's latest findings on consumers' meat eating changes, which will be published Monday, whites reported eating 10% less meat in the past 12 months, while people of color reported eating 31% less. All right, so let's go ahead and start from the beginning of how all of this started. It was a strong movement by a guy named Dr. Sebi.
Sebi has worked with Michael Jackson and Lisa Left Eye Lopez, and he says his line of cell food cures everything from chapped skin to AIDS. He'll talk about his life growing up in Honduras to winning a case before the New York Supreme Court. That's coming up on The Rock Newman Show.
I'm sure you heard his name around everywhere. And Dr. Sebi was a nutritionist that he claims he's never read any books at all, that he learned everything from just doing everything naturally and eating off of the herbs and fruits of the land. Now, he goes into this alkaline only diet, and it says that the foods that are causing the problems are acidic foods. And even the foods that are not naturally grown in the wild, such as broccoli and cauliflower, these foods are considered acidic. Any fruits that does not have any seeds in it are considered GMOs or hybrids, and it's acidic that causes mucus to form inside the body. So his claim is that mucus is the source of all diseases. In many of his videos, he sticks to this claim. He doesn't change from the fact, from his point of view, that mucus is the culprit, is the issue, okay? Even though Dr. Sebi died of pneumonia, which is a mucus forming inside the lungs. He died of it, and there's a lot of conspiracies behind it, and there's a lot of Sebians, I call them Sebians because these are people that are followers of Dr. Sebi. I'm not sure how long he was in jail, but Dr. Sebi was known to fast for like 40 days and 60 days. But he didn't fast just dry fasting or water fasting. He used a lot of herbs and juices. So it was more of a juice fast, because when he did claim I fasted for 40 days, someone in the audience asked him, was this water only? And no, he didn't. He did some juices with his vegetables and with his herbs so you get those nutrients, because that's a very long time. Now, comparing Dr. Sebi around in the 80 years old to other people that are in the 80s, Dr. Sebi was looking very fragile, weak, emancipated, and he had severe muscle loss because of that vegan diet. Pretty much your body eats the muscles for energy. You do not get your full nutrients, your full proteins, and I'm gonna get through that later on of the issues I have about it. So Dr. Sebi made this known, especially when he did videos. He was claiming that he had healed Michael Jackson, okay? And then there's a video where Left Eye, if you don't know her, she's from TLC, was saying that Dr. Sebi is the man that is trying to cure HIV and AIDS. And she was cured, I believe it was from depression or alcoholism from Dr. Sebi diet, which if you, well, I'm gonna jump to that later about the issues I have with it, okay? So, Dr. Sebi started this movement, and I remember because I was on board with the Dr. Sebi plan. I promoted him, and when I first heard about him, I promoted this and pushed this agenda to a lot of my family members. In fact, one of my dear friends, one of my closest friends, she's was a colleague of mine, a coworker, and I had her on this Dr. Sebi diet, and we didn't do well on it. We felt horrible. Even though we felt bad on it, we were thinking in our mind that, okay, this got to be the truth because he says it and it makes sense, okay? It's this common sense, eat the fruits of the lands, and how the industrial movement or the, I guess the propaganda is going with the processed foods are now hybriding all of these fruits and vegetables. So it made sense during that time, okay? Another pioneer that in the vegan movement is Dick Gregory, okay? He's a civil rights activist, comedian, and he also died, but he died of heart disease. Now, Dick Gregory has been vegan pretty much all his life. And in one of his videos, he says that someone asked him, what does your doctor thinks about you going on this all plant diet? And Dick Gregory says, I don't know, because my doctor died 30 years ago. You know, so, but I've seen Dick Gregory in person. I haven't met him personally, but I remember he was coming out to Dallas, Texas, actually in Arlington, and he was doing a comedy show at the Improv, and I ran into him in Target, and I've seen pictures of him, and it just never crossed my mind of how fragile he was. And when I walked past him, I said, oh, that's Dick Gregory. You know, I wanted to go meet him, talking about it, but we were in Target, and I was like, no, I'm not gonna bother him because that's not my style to just go and bother a celebrity and everything like that. But it was very interesting to see how fragile he was. He's 80, but again, compare Dr. Sebi, Dick Gregory to some other well-known meat eaters that's around the same age. You can see a huge difference with the body structure and you know the build and the way they look. And when Dick Gregory was he's walking very slow and you know, just very fragile and everything, but it just never dawned to me that it had to do anything with the diet. Another rising one, this is how another one got started, is a guy named Yada Detox. Now, Yada is very aggressive in his approach. He goes into more of a spiritual movement, which is peace and blessings and all praises to the Most High. He always starts us off with all praises to the Most High, and it's all praises to the Most High. So it's very spiritual, and it connects with a lot of the blacks that are also spiritual as well.
All praises due. The greatest gift a man can give a woman. Come on in, family. Peace, 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 peace.
And I know Dr. Sebi wasn't really a religious guy. In fact, he says he didn't want to be a preacher because of he would have to tell the truth about foods and everything like that. He didn't want to do that. So I know Yada Detox, he doesn't claim to be whatever denomination he is. I'm not sure. He does have an ankh, where he used to wear an ankh on his hat and everything, which kind of a more of a comedic movement with the blacks, where it's like, you know, Egyptianology but they call it Kemet or Kemet. So he attracts a different type of people that are in that religious movement or have left the religious movement and looking more into spirituality, and how foods is kind of like a spiritual movement and it heals you and all these things. He shows us before and after of how he was obese, having a cigar and drinking, and now he's on a plant-based diet on his way. And what Yada Detox and Dr. Sebi have in common is that they both agree that you should be removing any hybrid foods, any GMO foods. So Yada is very aggressive when it comes to broccoli and says this is poison. He'll be inside of a a grocery store and say this is poison and everything like that. So his movement is different, and this has caused a lot of followers because he has a detox plan that he sells. But also his claims is that women's menstrual cycles is unnatural. He tells you to go on this 60-day fast from eating only grapes with seeds and cherry with seeds, and he'll show you that, you know, the only reason why women have their menstrual period is because of the toxin that's in their body and everything. So his thing is that women should not be having their periods because if they're healthy, there's nothing to detox. All right. I was a follower of both of these people, Sebi and Yada Detox. Now, again, this caused a movement in the Black community, and you see these claims and you see these different memes that are going around social media, like do not eat GMO foods and hybrid foods. You need to only eat an alkaline diet. Even though your stomach pH is very acidic, more towards carnivore animals, it's at a 1.5 to 2.5 or 1.5 to 3.5. And your average, hydrocaloric or calorie, whatever it's called, acid, I think it's hydro something. It's around average 2.5 pH. So that's very acidic. And the reason why it's acidic is because we were naturally scavengers and hunter-gatherers, and we needed that acid to fight off the pathogens that's inside our digestive system. It helps with the viruses and everything like that, but I'm not gonna go too deep in that, all right? I'm gonna lose you right now. So stick with me, okay? I'm gonna keep going of how this movement started. And we're gonna go back to the hip hop movement, okay? Okay, so back to the Washington Post, where it talks about RZA, Ghostface Killer, from people from the Wu-Tang Clan. They promoted Impossible Sliders at White Castle. Snoop Dogg is an ambassador for Beyond Meat. Okay, and then you also have different people like Beyonce and Jay-Z that start promoting the vegan diet. And then you have one of the hip hop pioneers, KRS-One. It says, was an inspiration for me. This guy named Tucker says, he said his song Beef in 1990 influenced a lot of people in hip hop to think about veganism, to think about the meat in the slave diet, about the chemicals that we're starting to put in the food, and rise of highly processed food. Well, let's go ahead and jump aboard about this movement because with the Black community, we are reminded of how we were in slavery. And then a lot of the preaching was going around of how we reminded how the slave master gave us nothing but the table scraps, the chitterlings, and that's why we had to make chitlings and the leftover of the meats in the slave food was considered what is soul food today. Pig feet, pig ears, these different parts that the slave master did not eat. So they gave us the worst of the worst foods. This instilled in the mind of the Black community, say, you know what, you're right. They did give us this trash, this slave food, and they didn't give us the plants and vegetables and okra and all these things. And this really started an emotional movement. Now, here's the thing with Black folks in the Black community is that we are very emotional, especially when we're reminded about the past and we're reminded about slavery. We're reminded about a lot of things that has to do with slave food. And when you have different groups, different people on especially Facebook, they can post anything. And here's the other problem that I have with the Black community is that we don't really do critical thinking, okay? We don't do critical thinking at all. In fact, what we do is that we are followers of whatever is trending in the movement of Black hip hop, whatever it's on television, maybe it's, music artists, music videos. We are followers of this. And you can see the trend along religious movements as far as churches as well. That's why churches are followers of the hip hop movement today, all right? So it has to do a lot with spirituality, it has a lot to do with religion, it has a lot to do with the culture from the past and the culture of today of trying to fit in. And again, let me go back to the church part, is that how we're followers is that you can see in now the non-denominational churches, it's almost like a hip hop concert in a lot of these things. It's a lot of shows, it's a lot of dancing, it's a lot of things that wasn't readily accepted 20 or 30 years ago when there was more of a Pentecostal or maybe a Baptist movement or anything like that. The non-denominational now attracts their following by allowing hip hop inside of the church. Now, this is not a religious topic. I'm not even religious. I really don't care what the churches do. What I'm trying to point out is that Black folks are followers, okay? And we don't really do critical thinking. We go by what is emotional, because if we hear a sermon at a church or we hear an aggressive approach like Yada Detox, it touches our emotions and we reflect and we think about it and we think that must be right, that must be true. And in fact, the problem I have with the black communities, and again, this is not all of it. So here's a disclaimer. Here's what I want to say is that, first of all, this doesn't apply to every Black person. This is more of a social aspect, a social point of view. We really don't read. We really don't research. We really don't go out, and our research now is looking at a Facebook meme, looking at a social media meme, and looking at a social media social media post or group of angry individuals, and we follow that trend because of the emotional connection that we can connect with. All right. Let me not get too philosophical on it. All right. So we have the hip hop movement that's pushing this, and then we have different celebrities. Erykah Badu, we have will.i.am, Jermaine Dupri, we have Angela Davis, Colin Kaepernick, Kylie Irving, these different people. And what PETA does, they grab these people that has built their careers off of muscles, built their careers off of meat, especially the athletes. Then all of a sudden they stop doing that and they go to plant-based, and they go, look, I feel better on the plant-based, which is probably true because the comparison of plant-based from what? What are you comparing it to? You're comparing the plant-based from American Standard Diet. Even a lot of these athletes still eat really bad. If you watch the show or the movie, The Game Changers, the ones that were eating meat on there that did this blood test about how much cloudy is in your blood. These, I believe they're NFL players from Miami Dolphins. They were eating KFC. They were eating junk food. Some of the people were not coming from a carnivore diet. They were not coming from a ketogenic diet. They were coming from American Standard Diet. So anytime you switch from American Standard Diet, eating nothing but junk food, high omega-6 plant oils, vegetable oils, soy, which is just about in every fried food. Soy oil is in every fried food. Yes, you will feel better in the beginning on a plant-based diet. That's just common sense. But this is what they don't tell you. And PETA likes to use this. So Colin Kaepernick, he has this post, not bad for a vegan. Well, you came from you built your career off of meat, and you built your career off of animal foods, okay? So let's go ahead and move forward because I want to conclude of the major issues. I kind of threw some out of there, but I want to conclude with the major issues I have with this is vegan the new black. All right, so let's go ahead and recap. We already know how this started. That started from Dr. Sebi, Yada Detox, and Dick Gregory. These videos that they made was very controversial during that time, and we love sharing controversial videos on social media. And so this spread it like wildfires, and it was like a snowball effect. We know what escalated it, okay? That was the hip hop movement. The hip hop movement pushed this agenda, and a lot of celebrities went on board, like Colin Kaepernick and all these different people, Beyonce, Jay-Z. That pushed it, and again, we are also followers of whatever's trendy. So whatever the hip hop movement is doing, or the black celebrities are doing, that are attracting young people, we jump on board, and that's the other issue where we just don't really do critical thinking. It's like a fallacy appealing to authority. And just because someone does it doesn't mean someone's famous or someone that has some authoritative message or figure doesn't mean that it is right, all right? This brings to the other issue of what I have with this movement, is that there are long-term effects, okay? And a lot of people, whenever they jump aboard the vegan diet, they do feel great. They do feel wonderful. That's because they are coming off of a junk food diet, an American Standard diet. They're coming off of, the soul food, where there's a lot of carbohydrates. There's cornbread, there's sugar and your greens. You got all, Kool-Aid, sodas, all these different foods in the Black community. You have barbecue ribs rubbed down with sugar, that's why in the Black community we are one of the highest in the diabetes, type 2 diabetes. We're pretty much leading in every single disease, all right? That is a fact. We're pretty much leading in every single disease. And when you come off of those disease-based diets, which is not just meat, all right? Because here's the problem I have with studies, is that the meat studies where it says meat causes cancer, meat causes this, your life expectancy will shorten when you eat meat. They're doing studies off of questionnaires, and also these people are not doing a carnivore diet. They're not doing a low carbohydrate diet on these studies. The increase in meat is also increase in buns. If you have increased hot dogs, what are you gonna do? Increase with hot dog buns. You're not just eating the hot dogs by itself, you're eating with buns, hamburgers, buns. You're also increasing that with a bag of chips, some Cheetos, Doritos. You're also increasing that with some sodas. You're also increasing your meat when it comes to fast food restaurants. So these studies are pretty much useless when it comes to saying that meat is dangerous for you, all right? So the long-term effects, you're missing some very important nutrients, and you can see this from the vegans where they look deteriorated, their muscle loss, they look tiny. You're missing carnosine, you're missing carnonite, creatine, taurine, zinc. There's also B12, and believe it or not, yes, you are missing good quality protein. I don't care if your tofu says you get 20 grams of protein. It's about what is your body going to absorb. Your body on the vegan diet does not absorb all that protein. Here's a little test that I used to do when I go poop, or when I used to go poop on a vegan diet. I would go see how much of the foods are still in its same form. The kale, the broccoli, especially the quinoa. You can even do this experiment with corn, okay? Of course, if you're doing the sebi and all this, you're not supposed to be eating corn, but your quinoa, your chickpeas, these foods, if you look in the toilet, they are in the same exact form. What that means is that it's not being absorbed and crushed, and the acidic is not tearing down these proteins so your body can use it. So just because there's a quantity of proteins in the quinoa or the lentils or anything like that does not mean that you are actually getting that source. That's just a simple test. And not only that, just the antidotes. There are so many ex-black vegans that are now joining the movement of keto and carnivore because they felt horrible. Every one of them has said they felt great in the beginning, including myself, being 2 years on the vegan diet. You always feel great in the beginning when you come from eating Twinkies and donuts and junk food. But then in the long run, you go into malnutrition. This is the issue I have, okay? So unless you're like one in that Game Changers, Patrick Boubian, which I made a video of how much he is actually supplementing. He's eating like 80 grams of supplemental protein at 5 times a day. He's having multivitamins, he's eating creatine, he's eating all these different things that you just don't get from a plant-based diet for him to gain his size and his strength, okay? Unless you supplement like crazy, you cannot be sufficient on this vegan diet. So that is a problem I have with this black movement. This is just to get started with it. I might go deeper into the Dr. Sebi myths on later videos. But if you found the value in this video, please share this. Please go ahead and subscribe, thumbs button, comment, and hit that bell button.